welcome to my YouTube channel. And in our today's episode of Nurturing the Whole Child with Teacher Miriam, we look at responsive caregiving for optimal development. So we all know that for optimal growth and development, there are basic things that every child needs to get. We all know that we need to feed our children, we need to take them to school, we also need to take them to hospital when they are sick. And we know all those basic needs that children need for them to grow and to develop well. But today I want us to look at responsive caregiving, an element, an aspect of child development that a lot of times is taken for granted. So that we feel like once we provide shelter, we provide food, we provide medical care, and we provide education for our children, we think that is it. And that is all that children need to thrive. We need to realize that caregiving is quite an important aspect of child development. And caregiving is not just caregiving, not just having someone, watch over your child or take care of your child when you are not in, or even you as a parent, just being physically present in the environment of your child. Caregiving is a lot more. And that is why we are talking about responsive caregiving. What exactly does it mean when we say responsive? Who is this person that we can describe as a responsive person? And does it mean that there is unresponsive caregiving? So maybe before we talk about responsive caregiving, we can talk about unresponsive caregiving, that caregiving where we are taking care of a child as though, for lack of a better word, they were an object. So the child cries, you take your sweet time, then you go pick the child without uttering any word, without showing any response. You take the child, you maybe quietly assume that what they need is food or what they need is a diaper change, or for a bigger child, you maybe assume that they fell down or they hurt themselves, and you just pick them up where there is literally no connection. That is unresponsive. There is no much of you uh, getting into the child's emotions and feelings. That is unresponsive. So I am not going to dwell a lot on the basic needs that every child needs, because actually children do have their hierarchy of needs, which we could discuss in a later episode. But today I just want us to focus on responsive caregiving. So in talking about responsive caregiving, we are talking about the care that is given to children, whether by a caregiver or by the parents themselves, or even by any other person in the child's environment. It could be a teacher at school, it could be a Sabbath school teacher, a Sunday school teacher, it could be a madrasa teacher, or anyone, just anyone who is interacting with your child. How responsive are they? So what are these elements of responsive caregiving that we are going to look at? So the first element of responsive caregiving is observation. As a responsive caregiver, you need to be present, body, mind, and soul. What are you observing in your child? Are you keen? When the child is playing, when the child, even in school, when the child is in the classroom, are you focusing on that child and giving them attention as an individual? Or is it a group thing? Are you looking at them like these are third graders, they are all the same age? Do they learn the same way? Or are you keenly observing this child as an individual and structuring the environment, or if you are a teacher, structuring your teaching method to fit this child as an individual? So one important element of responsive caregiving is keen observation. Are you looking at your child? How is their behavior? For instance, is there any change from what you knew this child as? A child who maybe was always very attentive in class and would participate. Have they lowered their participation? Are they looking absent? Are they looking disturbed? A little baby who was always active and upbeat and always curious, are they sleeping more? Are they looking, disturbed? Are they looking irritable? Are you keen on observing such changes? Because in responsive caregiving, you will need to pick out these changes, or even at this time you are talking to your child, are you observing their facial expressions? Are you asking them how was school today? And are they just saying blankly fine as they walk away? Do they look like there's something they would like to talk about? So a responsive caregiver is very keen on observation. You look at the body language. Could the child be saying, I'm fine, but the body language says, I am not comfortable. There's something that happened to me at school or in church or while I was playing or when you left me with my caregiver. Is there something they are not saying? And even for caregivers, most of the time it's caregivers who prepare children to go to school. Are you observing in the morning as you wake up this child, as you prepare and set the breakfast table for them? Are they looking upbeat for the day? How is the pace for them? Are they constantly turning down your offer for breakfast and saying, I'm fine, I don't want to eat? So, as a responsive caregiver, you're going to pick out these things. If a child consistently refuses to take their breakfast, for instance, or if the child consistently comes back with a packed lunch dish, if the child consistently doesn't want to talk about school, a child who would talk happily about school, talking about their friends and how their day has been, if the child suddenly goes quiet and is kind of isolating themselves, and you're picking these things as a responsive caregiver, then it means that you are very present in the moment of the life of that child. So that is one element of responsive caregiving. Another element, which is understanding individual needs. So you could be taking care of 3 children as a caregiver in a home setup, for example, or taking care of 20 children as a teacher in class, or as a parent being parenting 5 children or 3 children. Remember, we are caregiving, we are providing caregiving services to a child. However many they could be, there is the individual aspect of child care. Child A is never going to behave like child B. Child A doesn't always express their needs as child B. So, as a responsive caregiver, you need to be careful about individual needs. So, there is how a child would behave or would articulate if they already have speech when they are hungry, for instance. So are you keen about that particular need and are you ready to meet that need? Which again takes us to the next aspect or element of responsive caregiving, which is timely and appropriate response to those needs. So once you've realized a little baby, for instance, is crying and you're thinking it could be a diaper change that this child needs. So do you let them, stay with this diaper for so long until they are getting nappy rash? Or do you quickly change and make them feel fresh when you feel like they are fasting because they are hungry? Do you provide the food timely or do you make them feel like you're taking your time, you'll still come back to them? If a child is, sometimes children do not have the semantics to articulate their needs, but as an adult or as a caregiver, if you are responsive, you're able to pick out and know the way this child is behaving. The way your teenager comes home and this teenager who would be bubbly and, ready to share school stories is now locking themselves inside their bedroom and only shows up maybe during meals time or when they want to use their gadget, and you're already picking out that. How timely are you? How quickly are you to respond to this? This is an aspect of responsive caregiving that is very important. A timely response to the needs of the child under your care. It could be an infant, all the way to a teenager. The speed with which you respond to their needs shows your responsiveness. And you know what? Every time you respond quickly to a child's need, it builds in them trust. They learn that I can trust people. They feel an element of care. I'm cared for. I am loved. Someone is ready to take care of me. And this also helps them to build trust, as we shall see later. And when this trust is built, it also forms a basis for future social relationships. So it's important to respond timely and appropriately. Again, do not respond to invalidate. Like if a child is falling down, most of the time we are told don't look at them. If they see you, they'll cry. Or don't even tell them sorry, because if you tell them sorry, now they'll break down. And I don't know, I don't think that is correct. If a child has fallen down and they have been hurt, do you just sit there honestly and look at them so that they are hardening up? How is their hardening up going to help them? So that quick response, picking them up, when you pick them up, you are ideally telling them we care. And so it's easy for such a child again to also be caring. So remember, there are lessons that we give our children that are not necessarily taught in a classroom, but they learn by watching what we do. Another aspect of responsive caregiving is providing a stimulating environment. So if a child wakes up, however little they are, there doesn't seem to be a structure for the day. So they wake up, maybe their diaper is changed, they are fed and just put there. And maybe programs are played for them on screen until the next time they need to feed or they need to be changed if they are little, and now they are picked up. Or if even a school going child, it's over their holiday, they wake up, they take their breakfast, and in between there's literally nothing for them to do. There's no planned activity, there's just no structure in that home. Then what happens? Are you really stimulating are you really providing a stimulating environment? So in providing a stimulating environment, we are actually helping to develop these children's cognition. So, however little a child is, play is a very important way of stimulating a child's brain development. So, you could sing for them, you could sing with them, you could read for them, you could read with them, again, depending on their age. And as they grow into the teenage or adolescent years, you could even play a game with them so that their day is filled with stimulation. They don't find times when they are just seated there and, like the bigger children, they are seated there and they have no plan. They are not even learning anything new. They're not. They could learn even to play an indoor game. They could learn to play a musical instrument. They could engage even in sports with their friends. They can join a basketball club, a soccer club, whatever it is, but let the environment that your child, whatever age that is growing in, let it be stimulating. An environment that doesn't leave your child just seated there and with blank hours where they don't know what to do. I mean, so what after they have been fed? So what after they have been put to bed and have woken up? Because when children are growing, and especially in the formative years, remember in our previous episodes, we have kept saying that the early years are the formative years. They are the building blocks for the child's future. So if we can tap into the energies and the fact that their brain is developing and developing fast, if we can tap into that early enough, then we are helping this child to develop in cognition. Consistently building a sense of trust. How do we build a sense of trust? I think it's by doing all the things that we have talked about, providing a stimulating environment, timely and appropriately responding to their needs, being cognizant of individual needs of our children. So even if you are a parent and you have 2 children or 3 children, these children's needs are never going to be the same. There is how children understand love, there is how children learn. Even as a teacher, the learning style of child A is never going to be the learning style of child B. There is a tactile learner in your class. There is a learner who learns by writing. There is a learner who needs to articulate their thoughts. Sometimes they'll be putting up their hand even when they don't know exactly what they're going to talk about. And that is their learning style. So you won't be putting them down and invalidating their style of learning. So when you are cognizant of individual needs, you are actually building trust. So once you have worked so hard to build trust for a child, it is easy for you to connect with this child. as a caregiver, as a teacher, and as a parent, because like I've said before, I will consistently talk and refer to the teachers, the caregivers, whether nannies or whether relatives taking care of the children at home, and parents, because all these work together in caregiving and in nurturing the children. So as we take care of children, we need to realize that feeding them, taking them to hospital, paying their school fees, or just having someone watch over them is not enough. We need to upgrade the caregiving practices and make them intentional, make them responsive. When you hear your child cry, how quickly do you run to them? When you're talking to your child, do you come down to their level, or will you be talking down on them? And coming down to their level could actually be physical, where you are squatting to get to their level so that as they are talking, you can look into their eye, they can look into your eye, and they can read. You can also read their body language, like we have said. You can know what they are feeling, if they are satisfied by the responses you're giving, and if they are feeling that connection. Because as I always say, if we do, caregiving is relational. I mean, we all know that, and human beings are relational. That is how God made us. I need to connect with you. I need to be close to you. I need to feel you for me to learn anything from you. So even when a child is given to the best teacher in the world, if they don't connect with that teacher, trust me, there'll be nothing to learn from that teacher. So we ask ourselves, how do we practice responsive caregiving, whether as teachers or as caregivers at home or as parents? And before we look at how, we need to realize one thing. Children, more than anything else, more than any type of toy or any gadget you could ever get for them, children need a loving and a nurturing environment more than anything. No toy can beat this. No snack can beat this, parents. Nothing can replace the importance of a loving and nurturing environment for a child. Nothing. You will buy the toy, they'll play with the toy, they'll be done with the toy, they'll even break it or stuck it away in the toy box. They will still crave for love. They'll still crave for a loving environment. So responsive caregiving is all about providing a nurturing and loving environment for your child. And there are so many simple things that we could do as caregivers to ensure that the children in our environment feel the love. Sometimes the words, children do not quite learn from what we say. They actually learn from what we do. You could keep singing how you love your children, but if you are not expressing that love in their style, then it doesn't mean anything. So simple things like showing love physically, children and little children at that love things like pats on the back. They love to be hugged. They love to be given high fives. They love to be affirmed. So that's a simple way. We don't need to incur any cost to let our children feel our love, our physical love. It doesn't cost much to give a high five. Even as a teacher, it doesn't cost much to give a thumbs up to your learner if the learner has done exemplary well, or if the learner is showing effort. Remember again, if we only reward and affirm the children who are not struggling, what happens to the little ones who are trying their best within their ability? Because somebody said that if we are to judge a fish by making it climb a tree, then we will live all our lives saying that the fish is a failure. So a child may not thrive in one aspect of learning, but they could be thriving in another aspect. They may not look like they are doing so well in arithmetic, but you can see the struggle, you can see the strive and the effort. Acclaim that, give a thumbs up, draw a smiling face, acknowledge that you can see the child's effort. So show physical just show your concern and your love and your empathy physically. They fall down. Don't sometimes children are very interesting once they fall down, because they want to see how much they are loved. You see, some will fall down and delay a little. They want to check if anyone is going to help them up. Don't shout from afar, get up, you're a man, you're a boy, boys don't cry. No, 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 no. Go, reach out to the child, get up their hand, and let them feel love. That could be all they need for that moment. So show your care and concern physically. Another thing is that show eye contact and give smiles. I mean, children are scared by blank faces. Those faces that look cold. They look like, I don't know what this person feels about me. So show smiles often. Show, put a warm face. Do not look indifferent to a child, because sometimes children, like we said like we said before, children are quite observant, but they can also misinterpret what they observe. So sometimes when you show them a blank face, could be, or a sad face, could be you're dealing with your own issues, but the child interprets it to mean that you're not happy with them, or that you're tired of them. So try, as a caregiver, try as much as you can to put on a good face, show eye contact, give smiles where necessary, and not just meaningless smiles, because again, children are very genuine. They know when it's genuine and when it's not genuine. So try as much as possible as a caregiver. We have a cloth for caregivers. There's a type for us. So appear like you're interested genuinely. Another way to show or to practice responsive caregiving is to show interest in what the child is doing. So you get home, you find your child stacking the blocks or just building their thing, and they are excitedly telling you, Mom or Dad or Auntie, I put up a house. Do not disregard that. Do not walk past your child like they said nothing. Respond, show interest, slow down, put your bag down, slow down, come down to their level. If possible, sit on that mat, ask them to show you how they stack the blocks, ask them to tell you about what they have made. Show interest. Let not our children like hunger and thirst for our attention, while this is the exact thing they need for them to thrive. A lot of times you will see, especially when children feel they have done well in school and they have been given their test papers, even teenagers, they will be coming, like on very many occasions I've been met by my children at the gate. I'm asking them to open the gate, but they are running back to their house to pick their papers to come and show me. Do not disregard that. Do not invalidate that. Pause, slow down. And I think that is what most of us as parents and as caregivers need to do. We need to pause and begin to experience life at the level of our children. So if seeing their well performed paper is more important to your child than their opening the gate for you, do not shout at them to open the gate, that you need to get in first, then you can look at the paper. No, 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 no. Slow down, look at the paper, affirm the child, praise the child, congratulate the child, then now talk about opening the gate. So it shouldn't always look like, I'm not interested, all I'm interested is for you to do first what I have said. Oftentimes a child is telling you about their day at school and you are rushing, you want to freshen up. So you keep telling them, let me freshen up, I come. And children and timelines, it's urgent. When they want to talk about it, it's when it is burning in them, and that's the time they need to talk about it. So by the time you are coming out of the shower, the child has already moved on and forgotten what they wanted to say. So we need to slow down. Even as educators, as teachers, a lot of times when a child wants to say something, that's when the thought has been stimulated. Slow down. I know there is a syllabus to cover, but slow down and listen to that child. It could be an aspect or an issue that is disturbing them and stopping them from listening to you as you teach. So what happens when you block them? If you block them, then that means they're going to remain blocked even for the rest of your own lesson. So, as caregivers, in the spirit of responsive caregiving, can we slow down at least? Can we listen? Can we show interest? Can we show them that if it matters to you, my child, if it matters to you, my pupil, it matters to me as well? So let's spend time with your child. That's another way of practicing responsive caregiving. Spend time. If it's a little baby, read for your child. Children are never too young to be read for. If you read for them early, even at infancy, at toddlerhood. They grow their love for books. You are stimulating their brain development. So read for them. When they are bigger, show interest if there is a book they are reading. Teens, for instance, love to read. My children love to read a lot. A lot of times, honestly, they actually read more than I do. So a lot of times they read and they want to tell me about what they read. Do not appear disinterested. You could actually borrow the book and maybe read a little, or read all of it and discuss with them, or listen to them as they give you the story. Basically, show interest and get engaged in your child's activities. I think one thing that I'm always and forever talking about is screen time management. You can never practice responsive caregiving if you're letting the screen do the job for you. I mean, children cannot connect with the screen. The screen is to feed the child. The child cannot answer back to the characters in whatever they are watching on screen. So limit time spent on screen. Other than a lot of sitting down and watching, posing a health risk in terms of the risks for obesity and such, it also doesn't stimulate your child's development, whether emotional, social, or cognitive as much. So limit, because you see, if you limit time spent on screen as a parent, that means you're going, or as a caregiver, that means you're going to have more time at your disposal for your child. So clearly, as we have said, I'm repeating this, your child needs more than anything else, more than any toy you could buy, more than any gadget you could get them, your child needs a nurturing, loving, and stimulating environment. Please, let's endeavor to create these environments. Everywhere we have children around us, at home, at school, even in churches, or wherever it is, let's endeavor, let's strive to create this environment for our children. Remember, childhood doesn't last for long, but it can be so impactful if managed well. So for this and many tips around nurturing a child to their fullest potential, please keep it locked. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like our videos. And let's keep it here where we nurture our children to their fullest potential. Thank you.